Sairam, this is Gyani Bele. My humble pranams at the divine lotus feet of Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. In this video today, I'll be touching on various learnings that we had from Swami. It is not a single theme or a single topic. So I'll be moving from one to the other as I'm going along. The first one I'll share with you is, usually when you're on the spiritual journey, most of us think that the regular worldly company and so forth is going to be a hindrance to our spiritual journey, which is true. But spiritual company is a good thing to have because it'll keep you in that mode, in that spiritual state, because they kind of help each other. But we ran into a situation, and Swami made us go through it, where spiritual company can also be a hindrance. And I'll tell you how it happened and so forth. Shivangini, of course, a great devotee of Sri Sathya Sai Baba, she had a very close friend who was friends with us prior to even Shivangini's spiritual journey began. That person was very close to Shivangini, and Shivangini used to really enjoy her company, and that person had a lot of experiences of Swami. Swami used to come in dreams, tell many directions and so on and so forth to her. So she was kind of very helpful to Shivangini, as well as Shivangini and she, both of them, they hit off very well together. They liked each other's company. They were both very fun-loving people. So they really liked it. And Shivangini we used to be with them, and of course we talk about Swami's Leelas and miracles and this and that, and share those things when we are with them. Then Swami got to a state, he wanted Shivangini to let go of her company. Now I'll truly tell you, Shivangini was sad. She felt, she didn't get, not hurt, but very sad that she has to go through that one. Such a person, she would really enjoys company and so on. And also that person is very spiritual. Like as I said, she has a lot of experiences of Swami. Okay. So she asked Swami, why? Because she is also a devotee of yours. Why you don't want me to associate with them? Then interestingly, Swami said, the reason why he is separating them. No, Swami was separating them, he did separate them. The reason he was separating them is because their individual spiritual roles are very different. One is on a very deep bhakti path. She was a very great devotion. She had a lot of devotion, that person. And Swami was molding a different person out of Shivangini. He was giving her experiences of everything, all the way from karma to bhakti to jnana and everything else, and he was growing her in that direction. And she was at a state in her spiritual journey where the company is going to become a hindrance to each other, and that's why he wanted them to separate. And he did separate them after that, and that's it. We never really got together much with them after that. And in the same vein, this company can be hindrance. One time Shivangini wanted to go to a satsang. Satsang is basically people who are devotees of Sathya Sai Baba getting together and talking about Leelas and everything else. And she said she was going to go there. Swami said, no, don't go there. He said, why not? We are going to talk about your Leelas, your stories. And only thing Swami said is nothing but spiritual gossip. So it's really depends. I'm not saying that don't have get-togethers with the spiritually aligned people. Do have it there, but understand there would be reasons sometimes where you may be hindering each other's spiritual growth. So that's where, that goes back to even understanding why it is advised many a time that one needs to be ekaki. Ekaki means alone. Not loneliness, but be alone. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next one. Here on that day, Swami was explaining to us about Atma, Paramatma, and the soul, individualized soul. He used the words of witness, knowing, and knowledge. Okay. Swami says, your soul, your Atman and Paramatman all are one. Okay? The Jiva and what we call Atma, the self, the higher self in us, which we speak in those terms, and we talk about this Paramatman, he says, all of them are one. But he says, but right now they are not. Now he is referring to where Shivangini was in her spiritual journey. And he said, right now you are not. Paramatma does not get involved. He is just a witness. Whereas your soul gets involved in activities. In everything that we get involved in, it is the soul which is getting involved in. It will stay involved till you become, he's referring to Shivangini at that time, you become one with God. He says your soul cannot become a witness till you really go from dualism to non-dualism. Until then, your soul will hold a separate identity. Now, there is another video which we did, which talks about dualism. And again, the same statements are made there. Till you go from dualism to non-dualism, one cannot get to liberation of the final state. And this is very consistent message, which was given at a very different time than the other one. Okay, so just know that eventually, if you are that spiritual sadhak who wants to go up to the state of liberation, letting go of dualism is a must. And till you let go of the dualism, you will continue to be a Jivi. Jivi means individual identity. You will continue to be that. You cannot be outside of that. In the same way, Swami says, knowledge is of the mind and knowing is of the heart. And what is being said here is basically mind, whatever mind knows and gets to know is knowledge. Okay. But the real knowing or experiencing, if you want to call it, that occurs in heart. We use the word heart. Spiritually, whenever they use the word heart, it's not referring to the physical heart we talk about, but it's really referring to the consciousness. Okay, and God, again, this goes back to the same thing. God can be experienced but cannot be known. Knowledge of God is not possible, but knowing God is possible. Knowing means experiencing God is possible. Okay, so that's another point which was emphasized, just to it gives you better understanding and clarity. That's why it's being shared. It gave us a better understanding anyway. Moving on to the third topic, which is related to anasakti. That is a Sanskrit word, really referring to contentment or indifference. That is what is shown in them. Not asakti, but not interest. Lack of interest, if you want to call it in a very generic term, if you want to call it. Now, indifference means absence of desire or preference. Emotionally, you are neutral, means you are indifferent to it. That is called indifference. Now, usually that is the state people who have vairagya be like that. They will be like that. Their emotional state is very neutral to whatever that thing. Now, there is another thing we go through when we are going through all this spiritual growth and spiritual sadhana, and that is about actively and managing and disciplining our senses from either going towards the external things or keeping away from external things, which have attraction to our senses. And the word they use for that one is pratyahara, that is withdrawal of the senses. Withdrawal of the senses tells you that senses still have a liking for that, but you're putting a control on it with your willpower. Whereas when you go to the indifference, there is no willpower exercise there. They just don't have interest in it. They lost value for it. Okay. So this is, I'm giving a little background before I tell what Swami said. Swami said to Shivangini, on that day they were having some discussion. In that one he says, you need to look at indifference, that is vairagya, in a different way. When it is applied to you, then it is vairagya or contentment, if you want to call it. You're contented, you don't care for what that other thing is. That is fine. But he says when your contentment or not contentment affects others, then you have an overriding dharma to fulfill. Like for your children, for your spouses or parents, you have dharma towards them. Just because I have vairagya or I have detachment, I'm not going to do anything this one because I don't care or I'm not interested in that one. It doesn't work like that. You have a dharma need to be fulfilled. And he further says, I just gave you a little elaboration on it, but in the further, continuing what Swami said, he said on a personal level, the more indifference, that is more vairagya you have, the better off you will be. It is better for you. That is at personal level, like for my own food, what I want to eat or what I want to dress, what I want to do. This is for my own sake. You can have as much vairagya as you want and it is that much good for you. But saying that I don't take care of my family's food needs or clothing needs or housing needs or whatever, no, you have an overriding dharma. Dharma had to be fulfilled first. So you give up, you put your vairagya aside, fulfill your dharma. That's what it means. So your vairagya must not come in the way of fulfilling dharma. That is the takeaway. At personal level, you can have greater the vairagya, the better it is. I'll move on to the next one we learned from Swami. This is about Parabhakti and Apara Bhakti. Now, many of you may have heard it, but quite a few of you may not know the details of it or what is difference between one and the other. Apara Bhakti, it is externally oriented, it is ritualistic, and it is either desire or a wish driven. Okay. And it is expressed through rituals, ceremonies, and external worship. And praying to God, asking me this, take care of this or take care of that kind of stuff. Then what is Parabhakti? Now I'm giving you these definitions prior to telling you what Swami said. Okay. What is Parabhakti? Parabhakti is internal. And it is transcendental, which means that it is not outwardly focused. It is not ritual or those are outwardly focused. This is transcendent. It transcends that. And it is selfless. And how does it express itself? It is express itself with your inner communion with God, your selfless love for God. You love God because you love God. Not that it is because you want this or because you want that, or he fulfills this or he doesn't fulfill that. Not that. And of course, service. Doing service of God, many different ways. Doing service to people also is service to God. It can come into that also. It might appear in there. Okay, that is Apara Bhakti, Parabhakti. Now, Shivangini, while in this journey, one of her spiritual friends who was on the spiritual path too, gave her a tape to listen to, saying this is a good one, listen to it. So she took that. She listened to it. Then on that day, I don't know, I can't remember the day, which day it was and so forth, but I remember she sat down and she said that I'll summarize it for you, what it said. And this is what she summarized. Shivangini summarized after that. She says, journey begins with Apara Bhakti, right? The ritualistic, the external desire-driven Bhakti, right? It begins with Apara Bhakti, which leads to knowledge. Now then the knowledge will lead to wisdom, which is jnana. And when this wisdom, jnana, when applied to day-to-day life, then it is Parabhakti, she said. This bhakti, that Parabhakti, when applied to day-to-day life, this bhakti is the ultimate of all spirituality through the jnana route. That's what she indicated there. When she said that, the reason I'm mentioning it here is Baba said something at that time. He said that this is the reason why the audio tape was given to you. So he wanted us to understand that, and I'm sharing the same thing with you, which you might get the benefit of it. Here, what is the takeaway? Apara Bhakti is necessary. The rituals, this thing is necessary, but not sufficient. Okay? It needs to progress steadily. Finally, becomes Parabhakti. You need to get there. We had a friend and we were in Puttaparthi at that time and we used to meet for breakfast. He was an Australian. And Swami used to call him Lion Man. He used to have this white beard. And at breakfast, he made a statement. Actually, he used to say this, and I remember that what he said. And what he used to say is, again, he's speaking in Christian terms. He says, it is wonderful to be born in a temple, in a church. It is wonderful to see someone being born in a church. But it is sad to see someone die in a church. And what he was really saying there is, it is wonderful somebody has interest to do Apara bhakti, which is ritualistic worship. Whatever reason you go to God, it is wonderful that you got there. Many people don't even get there. But it is sad to see that you stay there till you die and you don't move on to the next one. And that's what he meant. So I remember that, wanted to share that with you. Next, moving on, Swami told us one of the reasons why avatars take form, the human form. Now, avatar, when they come with many, many reasons why they take the form, and they come. There are many. You can read up any book or you can Google it, you'll find all kinds of reasons which people are there. I'm not going to get into that. What I'm going to say is what Swami said. Okay. And Baba said, when people see me in human form, they develop kinship. And when they see the goodness, that he was doing, whatever he made it happen around him with the devotees and so on and so forth, all the goodness that was God done. If you were to look at it, all the seva they do, the free water they do, free medical help they do, all the things they do, the goodness they see, they aspire to be good. See, they become the motivators for them to become good. Then Swami says, majority of the people cannot experience me at the mind and other consciousness levels. And I'm putting my words here. What Swami is saying is he can and he is giving experience to people at those levels also. But what the statement is making is majority of the people cannot experience me there. Okay. Further he said, majority of the people connect to me at physical level only. Okay. And that is the reason why many are given the chance to be close to me physically. See, many of you who have not been able to get closer to Swami, but you were there all the time at the Puttaparthi, and me and my spouse Shivangini were one of them. We never had the nearness of Swami. We never could. And Swami would refuse to do that anyway. He would tell her in her this thing. He says, but the point here I'm trying to make for you to take away is don't feel bad that you didn't get the nearness of Swami. Because maybe you're one of those who can connect to him at the mind level. You can connect to him at the consciousness level. So try that. That's really why, maybe that's the way you will get connected. And he is available to connect at all levels. Okay, that's another point. Now I'll mention to you, I'm moving on to another topic. This is back in 2002, Mahashivratri time was coming, and Swami says that in the inner whole, he took her through the Shiva aspect. I spoke in the other videos what the Shiva aspect is and all. Then after Shiva aspect, he's taking her to Vishnu aspect. In the Vishnu aspect, as we were going through, that started around 2000 or so. We are still in the Vishnu aspect at 2002, that is before Mahashivratri. And Swami said, it'll be good if you eat only fruit and milk at night and not eat cooked food for 40 days, he said. And if you feel hungry, you can have nuts. Okay. And initially, because I still remember, she started doing it, and because I ate alone for a couple days, by the time kids were already out at college, or already grown up at that level. So we were only two, and at that time I said, it's like, I wanted to join, and I joined her. So both of us started eating fruit and milk. And what Swami said, initially, when you're trying to do that one, you'll get hungry. And what Swami said at that time is, add some nuts to your eating, so that it subsides the hunger, along with fruit and milk. Okay. But then fruit and milk was the thing one had to go to. Okay. And, and we continued that one. We did it for 40 days. And after 40 days, we realized that how good we felt. Then both of us kind of spoke to each other and we said we'll continue it. And that is from 2002, and 22 years later, I still continue that. Now, what did Swami say about that when we were starting it, when we were doing it in that 40 days up to Mahashivratri, when he was making her do that one? His statement, he said that fools are those who won't take advantage of it. Then Baba said, this is a higher level of discipline than practiced by many who claim to be sannyasis. Reason I'm sharing with you, I have done it. It is a great benefit to you, both physically, external purpose, and also your mentally and your inward state, what you feel. And if you have the ability to doing it, and Swami says, is the best thing that can happen to you, spiritually speaking, for sure. Okay. There are benefits physically also, health-wise and all, the physical health-wise, but mentally, spiritually, it's a great benefit. So I want to share that with you. Next topic, on that day Swami talked about ego and discrimination. For some reason, this is almost like she's getting very close to getting a Jivan Mukti. Swami told her in 2003 that she was a Jivan Mukta. I repeated it in 2004 also. This is April of 2003, and there was some discussion going on between Swami regarding ego and discrimination. When I use the word discrimination, I'm using it the way we use it in India basically, not necessarily the way we use it in the Western world, where discrimination is considered a bad word. Till my kid told me, I didn't realize that. What the word it is viveka, which is discernment. That is a better English word, better American word than discrimination, okay? So ego and discernment, okay? Baba said to her on that day, you use the discernment to constantly work on ego. That is, when you go through your daily, I'm adding my words to it just to explain further. When you go through your daily stuff and all that one where the ego is playing and you realize it is there, exercise your discernment, your ability to, the viveka you have, and constantly tell yourself that's not the right thing or this is not the right thing or whatever. Use it that way. And Swami said, you use the discernment to constantly work on ego and don't have to be too harsh with it. Don't get too stressful on yourself. That's what he's saying. And he compares it to a tadpole's tail. He says it is like a tadpole's tail, and if chopped off prematurely, poor tadpole will die. Okay. But on its own, slowly it will shed off its tail at the right time. Then Swami is saying, really, losing his ego is a result. And the process to get there is constantly using discernment or viveka. So exercise your viveka constantly. And whenever ego wants to go, it'll go. Don't try to be too harsh on yourself when your ego sprouts up, because it has got tricky ways of sprouting up at the time when you don't want it to or when you're not planning on it. Okay? So don't get upset at that time. Instead, use your viveka. Constantly keep working on it. Keep telling it. And that's the only way you'll slowly, like a tadpole's tail, it'll wean off. Want to share that with you. And one other time Swami said about ego, again this is almost at the tail end of our journey or so forth. Swami said, doing comes from individualness. Doing means action, karma comes from individualness or ego. While being is to be with Atman and letting Atman act. Okay. And in Shivangini's case, he mentions the point, in your case, it is from doing to being and from being to becoming. Now, generally, it is not for everyone who's on the spiritual path. They don't need to go to the becoming state. This was more pertaining to her role, what Swami wanted to play a role. He was molding her into that role. So he was literally holding her hand and taking it over there. So the point here is uh, our doing, as long as we have this doership in us, there is still ego. And being is really with Atman and letting Atman act. Once you get to Atman, slowly Atman will act, you will realize that, but try to explain to you now is not going to work. Just get there. That's the only way it's going to make you, that's the only way the rest of it is going to come to materialize. Okay. Moving on, Shivangini was struggling. This was still a while in the Vishnu aspect. We go through a lot of things about discipline, flexibility, lot of things, like we need to have discipline to be successful spiritually. We need to have a routine and all that when we talk about it. And she was struggling with what is routine, what is discipline, what is rigidity, because some people are very rigid about their discipline or their practices, extremely rigid to the degree of discomfort to other people. Okay. And there is flexibility. And there is whim and fancy. What is the difference? She was thinking and struggling with that one. At that time, Swami explained to her with examples. He says, what time one wakes up, what time one eats food, what time one goes to sleep are examples of routine. Everybody has a routine. And there is a right routine to have, like what time to wake up. Our spirituality says Brahma Muhurta time, right? So there is a right time to doing that one, but regularly if you do that one, that's a routine you maintain. Okay, then what is regulation? Regulation is how you conduct yourself with the doing or not doing, the do's and don'ts throughout the day, day after day. Okay. For example, if you don't eat onion or don't eat meat, don't eat garlic, that is your discipline, let's say. Doing it regularly, daily, not eating it, avoiding it when you come across it and so forth on, that is you're regulating yourself. So that's the regulation. Then what is discipline? Discipline is nothing but routinely following the regulation. That is, you follow the regulation one day and the next day you don't follow it, then you don't have discipline. You do have regulation, but unfortunately you don't do it every day. So you don't have discipline. And you need to have discipline. So that is routinely following that. Then what is rigidity? Rigidity is an extreme level of discipline and usually not desirable depending on the stage of the sadhak. See, some sadhaks, like Swami gives the example of a small sapling. When it is a sapling, you need to put a fence around it. Okay? You need to be rigid about it, to putting the fence and not like keeping everything else away from it. Okay? So that is needed. But once you grow out of it, it becomes a tree. It doesn't need a fence around that one, right? So it's the same thing. There is at a certain stage, you might need the rigidity. But don't keep the rigidity for the rest of your life after you grow out of it. Okay? That is extreme level of discipline is rigidity. Extreme is whatever it is, no matter what, I'm not going to shift from it. Then what is flexibility? Not being rigid is flexible, but it has a danger, Swami says. The danger of slipping back. Slipping back into not following the discipline. What do you slip back? You won't follow the discipline now. Because of desire, because of want, because it's convenient, because it feels better, or whatever the reason, you feel doing. That is not good. So you need to watch out for that. But flexibility in general is considered good, not bad. Okay. Then comes, if one never truly followed any regulation or did not follow any discipline and say they are flexible, it is nothing but women fancy. Okay. So that's how we define the thing called routine, discipline, rigidity, flexibility, women fancy. So what is it you must do? You must have a routine, you must have a regulation, you must have the discipline, but not be too rigid about it. Flexibility is okay to exercise, but watch out. Okay? Sai Ram, let me move to the next one. On this day, Swami gave a very nice definition of love for another person. What is that? Swami says at superficial level, a positive response towards the attraction felt for other person is called love. In general, in the world. Again, I'll repeat, at the superficial level, a positive response towards the attraction which one feels for the other person, we call it love. But then Swami says, but when you say to someone that I love you, he said, you must mean these following things. You must mean that you do not hate, you do not dislike, you are not prejudiced against that person, you have sympathy, you have understanding, and unadulterated selfless liking. Unadulterated selfless means whatever it be. It could be against your own notions, against your own opinions. But yet you need to have that liking which should not go away because it is against your notions, against your opinions. Okay? You also must mean that you will not allow anything to interfere and diminish your sympathy and understanding towards that person. Above all of this, he says, you must be willing to sacrifice your personal interest in favor of the interest of the other person. If you feel this way about a person, then only you must say, I love you. Otherwise, this is a meaningless expression, he says. It was a great eye-opener. Last one I'm going to share with you is, this is about the chakras, about the what we do, the chakra cleansing, and we do in the meditation, the concentrations on the chakras and all. I'm assuming most of you know what chakras are. This is about the spiritual consciousness levels within our body. There are 7 of them. If you still don't know, you never heard of it, I would suggest that you read either a book or do a Google on it. It'll tell you all those things very clearly, what the chakras are and so forth. And after Swami said something to Shivangini about the chakras, he tells her, he says, tell Gyani to write down this concept. So I have sat down and wrote down that concept. When was this? It was May of 1999. Okay. What did Swami explain on that day? He explained that each chakra in the body represents a different state of consciousness. And by repeated concentration on the chakras in the meditation, one increases the level of consciousness within each state of consciousness, and that leads to expedited evolution of that individual. And that is what people call siddhis. What does expedited evolution means? Advancing one's consciousness within that level. Okay. When you do that one, you start getting into the states of acquiring siddhis. Siddhis are nothing but powers. These are either spiritual powers, occult powers, whatever they are. We see a lot of people we come across in the world who have these powers. Some people use it for good purpose. A lot of people use it for personal gain and also for negatively impacting others. And I've seen cases, like if we talk about Buddhism and this and that, they are nothing that they've acquired those powers, but they're utilizing it for the negative purpose, which is taken for their own personal gain. Okay, these occur because there are people done that. And there is also, this is a personal statement, this is my 2 cents worth I'm adding. Another thing, I've mentioned it in the other, when the concentration and the chakras, when we were talking about it. In tapas, there is one video which we did on tapas. In tapas, no matter who it is, whether it is a good person or a bad person, tapas means spiritual austerity. What is spiritual austerity? Doing meditation, doing concentration on chakras, and getting this siddhi, these powers, occult powers, then using those occult powers for some personal gain of one or the other. Okay, I'm calling that is the negative people, negative purpose it's being used to. Okay, no matter who does that concentration, who does that tapas, it is a law, it is a natural law that they will get the siddhis, whether they use it for good purpose or whether they use it for bad purpose. That is why, see, in our smritis or Puranas, we see a lot of these boons given by God to people, and that person tends to be an evil person, use it for evil purposes, he starts harming people, and then God himself decides to take care of that person's negative nature and so on. Okay. Why? Because that person has done tapas. Tapas automatically gives you the siddhis. It doesn't try to differentiate whether you are a good person or a bad person. So know that when you're doing this concentration, if you're diving into any chakra deeper and deeper, then you will acquire powers. And it's up to you. If you're using it for good purpose, why not? But if it is bad purpose, then you're on your own, basically. Okay? So this is the rest of the learnings we had from Swami's teachings while we were traveling together. Shivangini and I were traveling together on this spiritual journey. She left her physical form in 2005, and basically I've described, and then she was with me for another 2 years, and I've described that in my one of the videos, that how she was with me for another 2 years when her physical form was already gone. It is all told in there. And then till the time where Swami left his physical form, till then I've described the journey and so on and so forth. So all these are, what I'm saying is, learned at that time, during that time frame. With that, I'll close it today. Sai Ram to all of you.